Welcome to another episode of Barman Saturdays. This week I decided to take a look at Dragonheart, Battle for the Heartfire. Yes, we have a fourth Dragonheart film, but apparently the people behind this one were so embarrassed by the fact this was the fourth film, they didn't even put 4 in the title. Honestly, I don't get why. I hate when series are perfectly numbered and all of a sudden you decide to just drop numbering for subtitles for no apparent reason. Seriously, just number the suckers. But that aside, I guess we should dive somewhat into this film, and I have to admit, it's probably better than the last couple sequels by a bit, but at the same time it has its own massive flaws. One of the more obvious is that it has rather iffy pacing at times. At times near the beginning of the film it feels really dragged out as they try to establish what a cocky moron Edward is. Yeah, he basically spends a lot of the film, showboating at the early part of the movie. Showing off the fact that he has massive strength, because he has the power of 3 men, because, he has the power of a Dragonheart, which makes no sense, because in none of the other films where, a dragon shares heart do we ever see the children inherit powers, but I guess they'd argue, well, none of the other people that had these hearts, had kids or grandkids. Like, Ainin, as far as we know, died single, though, this does raise another question. Why on earth is Drago dying because Gareth's dying of old age? It's like in the first film, it's established that the life half of the heart beats in the dragon. Therefore, if you have the dragon's heart, or at least half of it, it's the dragon's half that you have to worry about being destroyed. Which is why Aang can be repeatedly stabbed in the heart, and doesn't do anything to him besides cause massive pain. So fatal injuries to the rider should not kill a dragon. So dying of old age should not affect Drago in any way, as far as I can figure. I mean, they try to just throw in a quick line like, well, when the dragon or rider dies, the dragon or rider will also die, depending on, which one died first. It just doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's just an addition to lore just to have, an addition to add extra drama early on in the film. Because, like, well, the king's about to die. There's no obvious successor, so Drago's about to die, and there's not going to be anyone to take control of the kingdom, so we're going to have to fight it out amongst ourselves to decide who's going to rule from now on. And our son Drago's like, oh, Gareth's dead, but now I can feel a bond with someone else. And how does he have a bond with them anyway? Is it like a connection through Gareth's family that they also got part of that heart somehow? And how does that work? I guess if you start bogging yourself down in the lore with this film, you're going to start to find a lot of plot holes. Like, the whole idea of the Heartfire itself. Like, when did we ever establish that dragons have, this internal fire within them that if they lose it, it will slowly kill them? Of course, it takes Drago several days to realize that's happening to him, despite establishing himself when he commented on the Heartfire that it's the very source of his life, it sustains him. Like, why would you not think you're going to die if you lose it? If it's that important that it sustains you, it's obviously if you lose it, you're going to die. So yeah, the additions to the lore make really little sense here, and probably are the worst aspects of the film. If you stop to think about them after you get done watching, like some of it might fly past you at first, but as soon as you get done watching, it just comes back and smacks you in the back of the head. I guess we can call that boomerang bullshit in honor of Bennett the Sage there. But yeah. The lore bits are definitely going to catch up to you after a while. There's also the fact that the film's not very well paced at times, I feel. Early on, there's a lot of scenes with Edward to establish his new rule, and he doesn't know how to read. He can sign things, but he doesn't know how to read. I guess his signature is basically just an X or something. He's like, just put some X's on there and just let him know it's my mark, and bam, done. But he's not reading any of the documents, so he's handing over, who knows what to people. They're just going to betray him later, and they're going to betray him because, they can take advantage of him easily because he can't read. There's just a lot of stuff like that that just drags on way too long. Like how the Edward loves to showboat how strong he is because he has the strength of 3 men because, having part of a Dragonheart apparently makes you a mutant. Which I guess makes some sense why they go that route considering, Patrick Stewart voices the dragon. And who's Patrick Stewart famous for playing? Charles Xavier. So yeah. X-Men. Only with dragons. And their hearts. In weird and confounding ways. But yeah, pacing's definitely a weakness of this film. At times, scenes drag on way longer than they should. At times, some scenes feel a bit shorter than they should be because they're trying to move really fast to close things up near the end. And it doesn't always work in their favor. On the other hand, I will give the film credit. It does put a lot more focus on character development and filling out or giving the characters more depth to them, at least as far as the siblings are concerned. A lot of the side characters are sort of just tossed under the bus. Another big problem with the film is the main villain. Our villain du jour is very underplayed and has very low presence throughout the film, which is a problem because we spend so much time focusing on the siblings that the villain feels boring and uninspired because we don't know enough about him to really give a shit about him. It also doesn't help that he kills himself on accident because, you know, that makes for an inspiring villain. He's like, well, I've got the power of the Heartfire in my hand. If I open it up and then drink it, obviously the gods will bless me. I'm like, no, it's fire, you idiot. Like, you're going to kill yourself if you consume it. Like, it's the fire from the inside of a dragon, no less. It's gonna be extremely hot. So hot it's gonna melt your flesh. So yeah, he dies a horrible death that's self-inflicted. I guess we just have to have villains like that usually. I mean, I see it all the time in RPGs where villains accidentally, you know, kill themselves, you know, because they're like, get super arrogant or don't realize how dangerous something is until, you know, they're in the heat of the moment and they're like, oh shit, I'm screwed. So yeah, it's not a good sign when your main villain that's meant to be, you know, the focus of the story once you get to the main action of them trying to team up and actually get the Heartfire back to save Drago, that's, you know, he's so dumb he kills himself. Incompetent villains are the worst villains, what can I say? At least it has some good soundtracks to fall back on, but there are a lot of the soundtracks that really stand out are from the first films. They're just being reused over and over and over and over again. We also get a recycling of basically the ending of the first film with how Drago dies as well, with him turning into stardust and then ascending into heaven, and then the constellation blowing up and then coming back together, which feels very lazy as well. Because, you know, it's just, like I said, recycling the ending of the first film. But overall, I'd say it's definitely stronger than the third film and definitely the second film. But it's definitely not as good as the first film was. Though I suppose you could argue that's a lot of nostalgia getting in the way at this point. Because I grew up with the first Dragonheart. These sequels, especially now they're so far out away from when the original was released, just feel like needless add-ons to the series. Just thrown out there to try and milk a franchise that Hollywood thought just wasn't quite dead just yet. And I suppose they were right, considering I went out and bought it anyway, despite knowing it probably wasn't going to be that great. But I guess overall, I'd say it's a rather average experience. Though you might be better off not watching the first two films if you go into this one. It might help the experience. I don't know. Can't be sure about that. You have to ask someone who hasn't watched any of the other films, I guess. Till next time, then. See ya.
Which way? Okay.